Hi guys, hope everyone's doing well. I thought I'd do a quick video this morning because I said that I would do some videos on how I dealt with a lot of my social anxiety, and I haven't got around to doing it until now. So I'm going to start with what was my starting point when I decided to start to challenge start to challenge my social anxiety, because I've had social anxiety since I was probably about 7 years old, and it became quite problematic, and probably up until about 6 months ago I was still very much stuck in it, and it limited my life quite a lot. So excuse me, clearing my throat all the time, I've still got a bit of a cough. So my starting point was, firstly, recognize that if you're using a tactic of avoidance to get away from social situations so you don't feel anxiety, then you need to address the fact that it's social anxiety and not shyness, because shyness is a good excuse that you can hide behind and just say, oh, I don't like doing those things, therefore, I'm going to avoid it, when the truth is really that you avoid things because it causes too much anxiety. So address the fact that you do have social anxiety, and then instead of doing what everybody else seems to tell you should do, which is to jump in at the deep end and join other people's ideas and plans to go out and do things, and hope that you survive, don't do that. That's not going to work. I've tried it. So instead, what you want to do is choose a path of least resistance, really. So the most important thing when it comes to social anxiety is being around people that understand your issues. And although you can explain these issues to a lot of people that are close to you, when it comes down to it, I don't feel that anybody truly understands social anxiety unless they have social anxiety. So they can sort of see the problem, but they sort of equate it with shyness or, mild anxiety, and not something which is quite as destructive as it can be when you actually suffer from the disorder. So I've always said that I believe that social anxiety only actually exists when you're around people who don't also suffer from it. And I always had the theory that if you put somebody together with somebody else who has social anxiety, the social anxiety would disappear. I had this conversation with a therapist that was treating me, and she said that it would never work. And I beg to differ, to be honest, because I've tried it since and it does work. So going by my experience, it's a good way to go. So if you have a look around on Facebook, groups and stuff, or meetup groups, those kind of things, or forums even, you will be able to find people that suffer from social anxiety as well. And what you need to do is look for somebody who lives locally to you and try and befriend them. Because the thing is, if you've both got social anxiety, firstly, when you go out together, you will not have to explain yourself because they understand. And secondly, you can find somebody that will mutually benefit where you're trying to get to. So you can actually use each other to help you strengthen yourselves. So I would advise you to see if you can find another person and almost buddy up with them, because it's very liberating in a way, because you can feel like you're being sociable without the pressure of worrying about judgment from somebody that doesn't understand what you're going through. So I found this to work really well. I found a group when I decided that I wanted to change things. I found a group on Meetup and Facebook, and I got talking to the guy that ran the group, and I decided to meet up with him for a drink. And we probably ended up going out for about 4 or 5, maybe 6 drinks together, just going out to the pub and meeting up for a coffee, that kind of thing. And it was purely platonic, obviously. I wasn't going out there for any other reason other than to try and push my boundaries when it came to social anxiety. And I would suggest that you do the same, and you look for somebody who's platonically interested in meeting you. You don't want to overcomplicate things. But I've found that if you can actually do that, then you can start to find a middle ground between their anxiety and yours that will suit you both. So you might find that they don't like going to busy places and you don't like going to places late at night. So you can find a middle ground where you can actually go somewhere that's sort of acceptable for both of you. And try, if you do meet somebody and do this, try to make the focus talking about your social anxiety as opposed to pretending that it doesn't exist. Because when you do this, you actually find out that to a certain degree you have a warped perception of your own social anxiety because there's no real frame of reference. And through talking to another person about it, one-to-one, actually getting down to the deep-rooted issues, you can find that, to a certain degree, your social anxiety is, quite manageable. And usually, in comparison to the person that you're talking to who also has social anxiety, you tend to think to yourself, well, I'd prefer to stick with mine and to have your problems because some of the things that they find difficult, you'll find very easy and vice versa. So in a way, it kind of puts everything into perspective. So you start to understand that how irrational it is for starters, and how varied it can be. And in doing that, you start to recognize your strengths as opposed to your weaknesses. So that would be the starting point, I think, that will make it easiest for you. Don't try to insert yourself into social events that are filled with people who don't have social anxiety, because it will inevitably turn into an overwhelming experience. I mean, obviously that's something that you can aim towards, but for a starting block, I think it's advisable to find somebody who's on the same level as you, and from that point you can actually start to build. So try, if you can, put a message on your Facebook, if you can, and if you haven't told anybody that you've got social anxiety, stop being ashamed of it. There's nothing wrong with having social anxiety. Tell people that you've got the problem, and you might be surprised at the amount of people that can relate to it who haven't spoken about it themselves. And from that point, you can actually start to build some acquaintances with people that you can mutually try to grow with by expanding both of your lives through overcoming social anxiety. So see if you can find somebody first, and see if you can just go out for one drink with them. That's the starting point. Go out for one drink, come back and reassess, but make sure that the one time that you do go out, that you make the focus talking about social anxiety and how the experience is for you, and how it varies for them. That is a good starting point. And then once you've established a friendship where you can actually get out of the house with a degree of comfort, that's when I'll start talking about tactics that you can use which will help you navigate social situations. Okay, so that's all I need to say for today. So until next time, I'll speak to you guys later. Okay then, bye-bye.